Good morning. During the declared emergency, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with the physical distancing requirements and in-person attendance limitations. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have been registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry, and when your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Any registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is now called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever properties to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because Committee of Adjustments and the TLAB, in the event of an appeal, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee rendered here today, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances, to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, or LPAT. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of every decision of the committee. The hearing procedure will be as follows. Unlike the non-virtual world where we vet the agenda, here we just go in order, in the order listed on the agenda. And when an application is uncontested, the applicant or agent may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants or agents are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and I will comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes. Oh, I already said that. Okay. When addressing the committee, please state clearly your name and address at the outset. And please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. We deal with planning matters. We don't deal with construction issues or personal issues between neighbors. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on a contested application when there is someone appearing with concerns and registered to speak. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. Committee may decide to defer the application if being substantially revised in order to ensure that the application is both accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then, individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Again, 5-minute maximum, and committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they've finished their presentation, and when all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent is given an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers, to answer those questions raised or issues, but not to introduce new information at that time. That will then mark the end of the discussion on that application. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Some preliminary matters to take care of. The approval of the minutes of the last hearing. Mr. Carvalino, what was the date of that hearing? April 29th. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll move for approval, Neil Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Seconded by Mr. Taylor. I saw your hand go up. All in favor? The minutes are approved. Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff on the matters in the morning agenda? Okay, none to declare. Okay, Mr. Carvalino will go through the deferral requests as we proceed, or do you want to do that at the outset?
We can go through, we have 3 items that are requesting deferral today, I believe.
Okay, so why don't we deal with those?
1, 14, and 16.
Okay, so we can get those people off the line who are holding. So the first item is item number 1, I guess, 20 Louisa Street.
Hello, Mr. Chair.
Hello,
My
is
name is
that-
Alexander Hardy
Okay, you're the
of C2
agent?
Planning. Correct, the agent of, and we're the planners for the owners. 2002094 Ontario Inc. of 20 Louisa Street.
Okay, so
I was advised. Okay.
there's an application for a 3rd floor addition with. I understand has to be deferred because there has to be a revised public notice. What's the reason for the deferral?
Correct. I was advised by COA staff that the deferral is necessary of the May 20th, 2021 hearing on this agenda item, as correction on the latest zoning notice was requested by planning and COA staff, which included the description of the existing building as legally non-conforming. So as such, a new public notice had to be circulated, as the public notice mailed to nearby residents did not include that description. And as such, a deferral to the next hearing date of June 3rd is to allow proper recirculation of the revised public notice is necessary, describing the legal non-conforming nature of the existing 6-unit apartment building.
Okay, so there will be re-notification sent out to area residents, and the public sign is going to be changed before the 3rd meeting, correct?
Correct. And the applicant has posted the sign with the revised hearing date and has submitted the signed declaration.
Okay, so I see we have another a neighbor on the line, Brian Chan of 16 Louisa. Good morning, Brian. Mr. Chan? Is he there?
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chan. I guess, I don't know if you've been listening to what I've been discussing with the applicant, so it looks like this matter is not going to be heard today. It'll be heard on June the 3rd due to a notice issue.
Thank you, sir.
So you'll be re-notified in any event, and you'll have an opportunity if you'd like to participate. We'll see you back here on June the 3rd.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, have a great day. So
You too as well.
Thank you. So members, we need a motion to defer to June the 3rd.
I'm happy to make that motion for deferral.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. Seconded by Mr. Bellissimo.
Danny Bellissimo seconds the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. All in favor? Matter is deferred to June the 3rd. Thank you. Okay. And the next one, Mr. Carvalino, I believe is item number 4 we are going to be hearing.
Yeah, item 14 is the next one, I believe.
Okay. 5450 to 5435 Dundas Street West and 50 Thomas Riley. We have only the one speaker registered, Alex Marshall of Pinnacle International. Oh, okay. Item 14, Mr. Alex Marshall.
Hi, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Good morning. Can you state just
Requesting
just state your name, please, when you start?
Alex Marshall.
Okay, go ahead.
The request for deferral is to update the notice that went out to area residents. The original notice referenced the citywide bylaw that does not apply to this site. So we've requested a deferral to correct that issue so that it will be referencing the Etobicoke zoning code that is the overall bylaw that the underlying zoning bylaw that is in force and effect for our site. The technical changes to the variance that we're requesting are the same, as both bylaws have the same requirements for parking stall dimensions. It's just a simply correction to make sure we reference the bylaw that's in force and effect for our lands.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marshall. Any questions for Mr. Marshall? Is someone, we have a specific date for that, Mr. Carvalino? It was also June 3rd? Okay, so, and there's no one else here appearing on this item, but there will be re-notification of that as well, to area residents. Okay. So members, can someone wants to weigh in with a motion to defer this item to June?
Danny Bellissimo moves for deferral.
Okay, thank you. I saw Mr. Taylor's hand go up. Mr. Taylor seconding. Okay, all in favor?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, our matter is deferred to June the 3rd. Thank you, Mr. Marshall. We'll see you back here. Item 16, yeah, that was on the consolidated deferral memo, 2777 Kipling Avenue. And the agent is Musa Ayade.
Hi everyone, this is Musa Ayade, the agent for 2777 Kipling Avenue,
Yes.
and we request deferral because we have been requested by TRCA to submit a concept development application, which we did, and we're still waiting for the result. And also we have a request from Urban Forestry for an application as well, as we don't have any existing street trees. So there is a cash in lieu that we have to do. So we request that deferral to be last week of June.
Mr. Carver, do we have a set date for that, or just next available date? Okay. Committee members, any questions, or someone ready to make a motion to the next available date on this one?
Danny Bellissimo moves deferral.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Alderson. I see your hand up to second the motion. All in favor? The matter is deferred. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ayade.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so that's the end of deferrals for, so we'll go back to, here our first item, item number 2. Item number 2 is 97 Hay Avenue. And it's for a 1-story rear addition. There are 3 variances, and there's no comments from neighbors or city departments, other than Urban Forestry is requesting condition number 2. There is actually one. And the speaker is Arben Shpadi, the agent.
Yes. Yes, my name is Arben Shpadi. I'm the agent for the owner. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so looks rather minor. I don't believe we need a presentation on this. There's no comments from anyone. And any of the committee members, would you like to add anything, Mr. Shpadi, before I take it into committee and see if anyone has any questions for you?
No, thank you.
Okay, very straightforward, 3 variances. Committee members, any questions? Or if not, is someone ready to make a motion?
I'm prepared to make a motion. It's a very straightforward application. I believe it meets the 4 tests, so I move for approval.
And there's the forestry condition.
Oh, yes, sorry, subject to urban forestry condition number 2.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. Seconder for that motion.
Danny Bellissimo seconds the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. All in favor? Okay, you have your approval. Thank you, Mr. Shpadi. Unanimous approval.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Okay. The next item is item number 3, 22 COBALT Street. It's an application to legalize and maintain a front porch and front basement walkout. And there is an order to comply. Other than that, just the materials submitted with the application, no other comments from anyone. And registered to speak is Pamela Pan, the agent.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee. It's Pamela here.
Good morning. So we'd only have the one variance, the front yard landscaping. And this is to legalize and maintain the front porch and front basement walkout. I guess there was an order to comply that was built by your client without a permit?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to tell us before I see if committee members have any questions for you or if someone's ready to make a motion?
I don't have anything else, but it is really a very tiny, small front yard. It's very limited. So I think what they have done is really trying to not use much space, but having legal stair. I mean, the width and the requirement by the building code. So I think this is, minor variance to me.
Okay,
I'm seeking for your support.
Okay, so let's see if committee members have any questions for you, or if someone's prepared, ready to weigh in with a motion. Committee members?
If other members do not have any questions, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
I actually have a question. In order to support your application, did you submit any photos of the final product?
No, I have not. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
Danny
No further
Bellissimo is
questions.
very clear of the drawings and showing the proposal as built, and I'm moving approval of the variance.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bellissimo, and I don't think there's any conditions on that, no. Seconder for that motion? Mr. Taylor?
I'll second the motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, you have unanimous approval. Thank you, Ms. Pam.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, the next application is item number 4, 19 Bolger Street. And we have a revision sheet here highlighted showing the changes to the variances. Variance 1 has been eliminated, and 2 of the other 4 variances. Hold on. 2 other variances have been reduced, and yeah, this was originally supposed to be deferred, but I believe then the deferral request was retracted, and they've actually made changes, I believe, that were requested by planning. And there is a condition of approval in the supplemental materials we received yesterday, late, requesting condition of approval being to be built, constructed as illustrated regarding the length for the 1-story portion. So the speaker is Mr. Danikias Jacob.
Correct.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yes.
Okay, so I see, I did that correctly. It was supposed to be deferred, but we were able to do the changes that the planning department was requesting of you.
Correct.
So
Yes.
we're able to get it rescheduled. You've given us a rendering, and would you like to add anything, or I can just see if committee members have any questions for you? There's no one here with opposition, and you've complied with
I see.
the request. There is.
Yes.
You're aware that there's an urban forestry condition on this as well, in the planning condition?
I'm sorry, sir. I didn't hear you.
Urban forestry is requesting a condition of approval.
Yes.
You're okay with that?
Yes.
As well as the planning condition?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, the planning condition that it be built, constructed as illustrated?
Yes.
Okay. So, would you like to add anything, or can I just see if committee members have any questions for you?
Well, I just wanted to say that originally we asked for about 10.5 foot storage area there to cover, but I want to have the committee to take a look and whatever's necessary to adjust those one there in order to make that work for us. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, committee members, any questions for Mr. Jacob, or is someone ready to make a motion? And we do have an urban forestry condition and the planning condition.
Danny Bellissimo has reviewed the drawings. I find the drawings very clear to understand, and I move approval on the conditions of planning and forestry.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconded for Mr. Bellissimo's motion. Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Jacob.
Thank you so much, your committee.
Okay. Okay, our next application is item number 5, 9 Kingsborough Crescent. This is, I guess, the morning session. This is when we have a lot of people registered to speak on. It's an application to construct a new rear deck. And there is one variance. The projection from the rear main wall and the height. And that's the one variance. We have opposition to this application. We have, I believe, 11 photos. We have I have 7 letters of support. That was in the supplemental materials, the photos and the support. We have opposition from 11 at Kingsborough, and they explain the slope of the lot in their letter. So they feel it's tantamount to like a second floor deck. So we have registered to speak. Well, both the owner and the agent are registered. We'll only hear from one of them. Oh, sorry. No, that's the owner next. Yes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people registered to speak in addition to the applicant and the owner. So the agent is Paul Caravaggio. So let's turn it over to Paul. And
good morning, members of the committee.
Start off by stating your name, and you have 5 minutes to make a presentation to the committee.
Sure. Good morning, members of the committee. Mr. Chair, my name is Paul Caravaggio, and I'm the authorized agent for the application before you at 9 Kingsborough Crescent. The proposal before you outlines a rear yard raised deck that replaces an existing platform in the same location. The variance requested is the result of the proposed raised deck extending beyond the maximum 2.5 meters measured from the exterior wall to a depth of 3.68 meters. The replacement deck serves the ground floor of a backsplit single-family dwelling. And if you view the site plan, the proposed deck does not project beyond the rear walls of the adjacent neighboring dwellings to the north or south. The open rear yard area is significant and would have very little impact on neighboring rear yard areas to the east of this property. The rear yard setback from the proposed deck to the property line on the east is more than 15 meters at its shortest distance. The proposed deck will serve as an outdoor access and access from an interior dining area. The owners have invested significant money in upgrading this home for their young family. And we reviewed the application with neighbors, and the general consent has been positive. We've submitted these letters, as you've noted, to the committee to review, and in light of this, we would ask that the committee favorably consider this application.
Okay, okay, that was short. You want to just put up, moderator, put up the site plan while we're hearing from the neighbors? And does anyone have any questions for Mr. Caravaggio before we move on to the speakers? Thank you. No one has any questions for Mr. Caravaggio at this time, so let's proceed on to the owner of the Francis Zuccarini is the owner of 11 Knightsboro, who is the, I guess, most affected party. Registered to speak. I just see, because, yeah, we won't be hearing from the owner. We only hear from an agent or an owner. And likewise, committee members and staff, I see we also have a tenant registered at 11 Kingsborough to speak in addition to the owner. Whether, perhaps, Mr. Carvalino, can you advise if that's... we have a tenant or an owner of from one property. Normally, if we have a husband or wife or partners, only one of them speaks. But in any way, let's hear for here first anyway from Francis Zuccarini. Okay, but we did get, as part of the supplemental materials yesterday, 11 photos and 7 letters of support. I assume that was all from the applicant? Yes. And now this is additional materials that was filed late by the... Okay, so perhaps, I don't know if committee member, because we are looking at late arriving. It was just, I guess, late. We got the package, I guess, 4 in the afternoon, so you didn't want to send it to us further stuff at 10 p.m. or something. So perhaps it is relevant that we should have that available to Mrs. Zuccarini if she wishes. But okay, Mrs. Zuccarini.
Yes, good morning. Just to make a correction, good morning. I am the owner here, and Jeff is my partner. He's not a tenant at this house. Okay. He's my partner.
Okay.
So he won't be speaking, okay?
That makes it thanks for disclosing that. Makes it easier, because normally we don't have only one spouse with a tenant. It might have been someone, a different perspective. So that makes it easy. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Zuccarini.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of this committee. I would like to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to review this file. This is my first time being in front of this committee. I have never been in a situation of this magnitude and hope I have provided all the information required. I thank you all for allowing me to speak at this time and express my genuine concerns regarding this matter before you. We rely on the city to uphold the zoning and to do the right thing. Forgive me for being nervous, and I kindly ask for your patience. My name is Frances Zuccarini from 11 Kingsborough Crescent. I have been living in my home for the last 13 years. I'm here today to represent myself with respect to the application before you. I submitted a letter of opposition in which I have presented all the reasons why this platform should not be supported today. That letter was created to help members better understand how we are dealing with the weaknesses of this application. It outlined all of the reasons why this platform should not be approved by the committee today. I asked the chairman, has the committee read my letter of opposition?
Yeah, we have your letter here.
Okay.
Your two-page letter. I think
I first
you had
heard of
access to that, and was, I assume have all read your concerns. This is
Okay.
your 5 minutes to sort of reiterate and to, you know,
Yep. Okay. I first heard about the deck.
Formal.
I know, but this is my first time,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah, it's
okay.
important to you, for sure.
It's very, very important to me. I first heard about the deck after receiving the public hearing notice. As a good neighbor, it would have been neighborly to have advised the affected neighbors prior to receiving the notice. Our neighborhood is a more respectful neighborhood than other areas in the city in regards to development and redevelopment. We consider our neighborhood to be a very unique and intimate enclave of bungalows, back splits, two-story and side split homes, none of which feature a 2.62 meter high elevated platform of this enormous size. The previous structure they had no access to the ground. We do not want to set precedents with this large platform. As my property is on the curve of the crescent, I have a baseball diamond-shaped lot and I have 6 neighbors. Can you imagine if they would all want to do the same? I can't understand for the life of me why they need this elevated deck when they already have a very large patio that presently takes up a very large percentage of their lot. I have absolutely no objection to them replacing the original sized balcony. Myself and the surrounding neighbors affected can't understand why a family of 5 needs so much extra entertainment space. Many neighbors have signed a petition in opposition of the variance. These neighbors are directly affected. I have sent an email with this letter of petition to Philip Carvalino. It is now posted on the Application Information Center. I asked the chair to bring it up on the screen so the committee members can view it. Thank you.
Mr. Carvalino.
The letters.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay. That's not her. That's the additional materials that came last night at late. Okay. Okay. So let's look at this.
Okay.
Petition.
The letters. Mm-hmm.
Can you scroll that? Is that what comes below that? There we go. Different addresses, 20, you know. You don't have a map showing how close or far those particular neighbors are compared to the, you know,
They're the backyards.
Yeah, we also have 7 letters of support from, you know, to see where those letters came from. And you know, obviously the people that are most affected, if someone lives across the street, they're not affected by a deck in the rear. Do you know what room does that come off of a kitchen? My understanding is this is really, even though it's sort of raised, it still creates like, it comes off the, off of like a first floor area. It doesn't come off.
No, it's the second floor. No, it's the second floor.
So it comes, okay, we'll have to look at the plans or ask it that in rebuttal, but what room it comes off of for the...
Exactly, it's the second floor. At the rear. It's the second floor at the rear.
Right, but
anyway, the letters of support
inside the house? What's the room that it comes, what room are you in when you come out onto the deck? Are you in a kitchen or a bedroom? Is the deck is off
I don't,
the ground floor of the house? I know you
no,
said
it's on the second floor of the house.
Okay.
The letters of support that Maria has submitted are not neighbors directly affected by this matter. Myself and the rear neighbors are the most affected by this platform, not the people who live in homes across the street or around the other side of Kingsborough or Hunting Ridge. Or the ones affected are all on Royalwood Court, and those are the ones that I have the letters from. I believe that the members should personally inspect the property and view it for themselves. The grading from the front of the property to the back is severely sloped. The proposed deck is actually off the second story of the rear of the home. Therefore, their application is misleading in the minor variance as it is a major variance. I firmly recommend that the committee does not support this application as it is unfortunately a matter of greed and not one of need. If the committee has any further questions for me, I am more than happy to provide you with the answers you require to the best of my ability. I really find hardship in this file, and it has caused me great anguish. We respectfully ask you to refuse this application. Again, I want to thank you all for the time that I have been given, and I rely on the city for upholding the integrity of the official plan and zoning in my neighborhood. Please make the right decision and refuse this monstrous-sized platform.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Zuccarini.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mrs. Zuccarini before we move on to the next speaker? Members? No, I can't. I can see 3 of the members. The thing is over the other one. So no one has any questions. So in that case, let's move on to Frank Pagolo at 8 Royalwood Court. And my location map is, I assume, Royalwood Court. We have the next couple of speakers. Are from Royal. I assume that's the street in the back. It's cut off on my.
Yeah, it's the street right behind it.
Right. Okay. So those are obviously the neighbors that are affected. We obviously look at the context when we see letters of support and opposition where these people are. I also note, because the next speaker is either one of the 2 neighbors. I see we have 2 neighbors registered from number 8, so we're only going to hear from one of those 2, whether it's Frank Pagolo or Guili Pagolo. So, who's speaking?
My name's Frank Pagolo. I'll be speaking, and my wife's name is Julie, not Guili.
Okay, sorry.
No problem. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I've lived in this neighborhood for 32 years, and we don't move around a lot. And one of the reasons we stayed is because it's a great place to live. Neighbors respect each other, and one of the reasons we coexist so nicely is because there's mutual respect with in terms of noise and what people build, et cetera, et cetera. And it's concerning when I see something of this magnitude that's going to be built, because it will directly affect the enjoyment of my backyard. We use it a lot. We've spent a lot of money landscaping it. It's our outside entertainment, and my concern is to have something of that magnitude behind me and above me. It's probably a good 10, 15 feet above me. Is very concerning. Now, with respect to the there's been a lot of mention about the letters of support. There are 7 letters, and from what I can see on the letters of support, only number 7, Kingsborough, would be directly affected. The one on Hunting Ridge has got to be a good 150 yards away on the opposite side of the street. Number 8 is on the opposite side of the street. The ones in the 23 is on the opposite corner. It's like a horseshoe. It's on the top right hand. It's in the top right corner, whereas number 9 is in the left hand corner. And then the one 30, 35, and 43, I believe, are right on the other side of the street, not being affected at all. For those things to be considered, that makes about as much sense. Excuse me for being rude here, but I was asking someone in Scarborough whether this would affect them. And as you can see, Ms. Zuccarini, who got the petition together, all of us are, as you said, are directly affected by this. And that's all I have to say.
Right. So I'll ask you the same question I just asked Ms. Zuccarini. It looks like it's because of the slope of the lot. So is this deck is off the kitchen, the dining area? It looks like from the plans, or is it off a second floor? It doesn't look like it's off a second floor bedroom or something like that. It looks like it's basically off of the kitchen or dining area.
I guess so.
Yeah, okay, just wanted to get that clarified. So, but
yeah, and one other concern I do have is the well, because it's so raised and we're close by, is the noise.
Yeah.
You know, you go in your backyard, you want to be quiet. You know, you want a certain amount of quiet. You know, we're in a city, people are next door to each other, but you know, I think one of the benefits of living around here is we learn how to coexist and be respectful of each other, and I think something of that magnitude has the significant potential of taking away from that.
Right. So I see it. It doesn't go, I think, as the applicant said, it doesn't go beyond the rear walls of the two adjacent homes, but it is visible from the other people sort of in the backyards, like you and the other neighbors on Royalwood. And there's no other.
It's not just the visibility, it's the noise. It's not just the visibility. Sound carries.
Okay, but there are no other decks in that area visible. Like if you go out on your backyard, there's no other, as far as you can see, there's no other raised decks higher than what's permitted under the bylaw. And what is it? Is it 6 feet up in the air? I think it's what, 3 meters, or just looking at the variance here.
3 meters is closer to 3 meters is closer to 9 to 10 feet.
Right. The rear deck will be, okay, and will be 2.62 meters high. So that's about 7 feet high. And what's permitted is, so it's higher than what's permitted. That's the issue. They're allowed to have a deck. I don't believe the deck is considered to be oversized. There's no variance for that. It's just the one variance. So it's the height and the projection. So it is the projection from the rear wall. Just wanted to clarify what we're talking about here. Okay, we'd like to add anything else as we'll move on to the next speaker. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Pagolo before we move on? Okay, so the next speaker is Anthony Bastone at 5 Royalwood. So it's, I guess, the other side of the street from Mr. Pagolo. Mr. Pagolo's rear faces the rear of Kingsborough. I assume Mr. Bastone's does not, but we'll hear from him. Mr. Bastone? Miss Bastoni?
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Thank you very much. So I'm actually on Royalwood as well, and I'm actually one of the neighbors that is directly behind the applicants here for the minor variance.
Oh.
It is, yeah, I'm directly behind them. So it's the way and you know, just reiterating what everyone else has mentioned with the grading and with the slope.
Yeah.
This large deck here overlooks directly into my backyard, and it will, even like with the projection and the height, it's going to look into it further. I've got a pool. I've got 2 small children, my wife and myself. You know, it's very difficult to maintain that privacy and to have that enjoyment of our property with a large deck. I'm not opposed to them building a deck, and as you can see in the drawing there, like the first portion, like looking at to the right where you see the actual windows at the top, and then you see the first sliding door and then the sliding door at the bottom.
Yeah.
The original deck was right there. It was a little bit lower. It was actually about 6 feet and change. The proposed decking right now, I think, is going to be close to 9 foot, if not more, in height. And then the projection itself, the additional 5 feet that's coming out from the actual rear wall of that second window right below that main picture window up at the top over there will project out an additional 5 feet. So having that projection from the rear wall out further oversees directly into my backyard. So again, I'll reiterate, the noise component is another thing as well, but the size and the immensity of the deck, I think, is a little overwhelming, as well as affecting my privacy on my property. And again, like Francis, I'm also on a very pie-shaped lot, and I have 6 neighbors in the back.
Yeah.
With any type of large or any type of balcony that oversees into my backyard, and again, excessive.
Okay. Actually, I was a little confused when I'm looking what I can see of the location map. So it looks like 4 is next to 5 is next to 6. Like there's something, it doesn't look like odd numbers and even numbers. So I can see there where you are, you're right behind. And then Mr.
Yeah, I'm right behind. So
Mr. Belola was 2
can
lots.
that
Yeah.
Correct. Can that drawing come back up on the screen there?
Yeah.
We have the survey map there, and then I can exactly point out to you exactly where it is.
Yeah. So there is because of the configuration, there is a lot of backyards visible here because of the
Correct.
main street rather than the straight, grid type streets. You wouldn't affect as many people, I guess.
Exactly. It's the design of the neighborhood. That's correct. So I'm right behind, if you see, there's lot 92, which is the lot in question. I am over, I think, showing lot 80, but it might be lot 79.
Yeah. Okay. So even though that we heard in the presentation that it doesn't go beyond the rear walls of the two adjacent homes, there's the issue about the effect on the people across the backyards.
Correct.
Okay.
I have one other point that I'd like to bring up as well, and just to reinforce what Mr. Pagolo had mentioned and what Mrs. Zuccarini has mentioned as well. So the supporting letters that were received are neighbors that are not even close to the property in question here. So the one right beside, I believe it's Carmen Stelteri. I don't remember the number. It's probably number 7 that is directly impacted, which is lot 91, which I would wholeheartedly take as support for that. But the rest of the neighbors that were referenced are 150 yards away, around the corner from the street. Oh, there you go. You've got the Kingsborough on there. So they're all around the corner. They're not even close by.
Okay. Thank you for helping us figure out the context of the area there, because I was a little confused.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any questions then for the neighbor, Mr. Bastoni, before we move on? If not, we'll hear from Larry. We don't have a last name, at 15 Kingsborough Crescent.
Actually, Chair, I don't have Larry on the line at all.
Okay. Okay, he's on the other side of Mrs. Zuccarini, so we've heard from Mrs. Zuccarini. Okay, so in that case, we go back to Paul Caravaggio, the agent, to respond to the issues that have been raised by the neighbors.
Yes, thank you. So a few points that I need to make clear. The most telling drawing with regards to Mrs. Zuccarini's objection is drawing A4.1, which is a cross-section through the site showing the site elevation. This platform is at the first floor level.
Yeah, first of all, can we get that up on the screen while Mr. Caravaggio is speaking? Thank you. Okay.
It is not at the second floor level, and any sort of framing of this minor variance as a balcony does not apply. It's very straightforward. We're asking for a projection of 3'6" beyond what is permitted. It replaces an existing deck, and with respect to mitigation methods that we've taken, A4.1, if you keep scrolling up, has applied a screen to the affecting property. Again, Mrs. Zuccarini's property, her rear wall projects 7.8 meters beyond the rear wall of the existing access for this deck. The deck, there were questions about what where the deck is associated, and it is off the dining area.
And is it flush with the floor level when you come out from the dining area? Is it flush?
It is at the exact same height as the original deck, 2.6 meters above, which was, we're replacing what was there other than extending it off to the towards the south so that they could have a stair to access the lower area. That's the Kelso.
So the previous deck was at the same height. It was at the same height?
Correct. Correct. So the variance is clear. It's simply the projection beyond what is permitted. And with regards to the impact to the neighboring dwellings, the distance would mitigate that. Again, 15 meters from the rear yard at the shortest point, and that's to the property line, let alone we understand that it has an impact. You're able to see how, but that's the case for all rear yard neighbors.
So basically it's you're allowed a height of 1.2 meters above the ground, and you're at 2.62, so you're 1.4 meters higher.
No, I'm sorry. We're allowed we're allowed 2.5 meters. Anything that projects beyond 2.5 meters would need to be at 1.2 meters. So it's the portion, it's the 1.16 meter, 1.1 meters that projects beyond the 2.5 that as of right would be at 1.2 meters.
Correct. Okay, thanks for clarifying that. It says, except if any part of the platform located 2.5 meters or less from the rear main wall. And it is no higher than the level for which it gains access.
That's right.
Okay. Anyway, thanks for clarifying that. Can you please, you want to add anything else? We heard from a couple of neighbors, so. You were mentioning some mitigation. You were mentioning some screening.
The screening is up on the screen right now. That's the greatest impact of this proposal is to the neighboring property to the south, Mrs. Sabrini's place. We understand that. There are existing windows on her side yard that view down into this area, and it's an existing condition. She would be able to view down into the patio area, regardless of whether there was a deck or not. And again, we've taken this opportunity to provide a screen for the deck along the south part of this platform. We understand that there's an impact, but again, given the extent and that there's a jog, and it's not a straightforward rectilinear type of proposal, the siting itself would sort of mitigate our request for the additional 3'6", 1.1 meters. That's what it is. That's what we're requesting beyond what's permitted. And again, it's to accommodate a dinette space off the dining area.
Okay. Committee members, does anyone have any questions at this point for either Mr. Caravaggio in terms of his rebuttal, or for that matter, any questions for any of the neighbors who've spoken? I guess we'll take it into committee for a decision after that. Does anyone
Danny Bellissimo has a quick clarification question of the applicant.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm looking at drawing A2, which is the floor plan of the deck. You can make reference to that for me, please.
A2?
A2, that's the floor plan of the deck. If staff can put that on the screen, if possible.
A2, yeah. A2, so you're too high.
A2 the other direction?
It's the one that shows the deck. Keep going. There we go.
Okay, good. Thank you. So my question to the applicant is, that deck goes across the whole back of that dining area. You're allowed to do that, is that correct? That's
Yes.
not the variance.
That's not the variance.
Okay, so the variance is the depth of the deck, the 12 foot.
The projection
And how much
beyond
sorry, how much are you allowed without variances of that depth instead of 12?
2.5 meters is what's permitted at that height. We're asking for an additional 1.1 meters beyond the 2.5.
So so in feet, since your drawing is in feet, what's the depth of the deck that you're allowed?
The depth of the deck that we're allowed projects beyond. Do you see where the 1.5 meter projection is? 5 foot 1 inches.
I just want a dimension of the depth of that deck. You're proposing 12 feet 1 inches or 12 feet. How much are you allowed?
8'4".
8'4". Okay, so we're talking about 3'6" extra.
Correct.
So in other words, if we turned you down today, you still can have a deck that whole width, but 3'6" less in depth.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
There's also the height issue, though, too, right, Danny? Or Mr.
No, I think the height's allowed. Is that not correct?
The height's allowed.
The height is allowed. The only difference is the width of that deck, which is now 12 feet proposal, but he's allowed a smaller depth. But the whole width of the deck is allowed. He could, if we turn him down, he can still have a decent sized deck, but not that depth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. But maybe no higher than the floor from which, so in other words, Mr. Caravaggio, you're allowed the deck at 2.62 meters? Just want to clarify.
Yes.
What, so you're allowed that, because it's the lesser of, or the greater of, the floor from which it gains entry, or the other height. Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for either the applicant or any of the neighbors? And if not, let's bring it into committee for a decision. No higher than except. Yeah, so the portion that's 2.5 or less from the rear wall is, we just said, the 8 point something feet rather than the 12, and maybe no higher than the floor from which it gains access, which it is. So the variance is the additional 4 feet projection, more or less. Correct, Danny? That's the
that's why I wanted to clarify with the applicant. That's what he's suggesting this, and
Yeah,
that's what I understand. It's the depth of the deck, not the full length of it.
Yeah, it's always good to clarify what's permitted as of right, because then you know what you're approving, and it helps you know if there's a possibility of doing something without the variance. So thank you for clarifying that. So does anyone have any more questions for any of the speakers, or if not, is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Mr. Chair, I've been sort of grappling with the impact on the neighbors that have spoken, and perhaps there are others that didn't speak today. Comparing the impact of what is proposed versus what is permitted as of right. And I think we've boiled the essence down here. If this deck projected 1.18 meters less, we wouldn't be here today.
That's correct.
Yeah. So I think really the question is a 1.18 meter extension a minor variant or not? And really, to what extent does a deck 1.18 meter deeper than what is permitted as of right problematic to the neighbors? I would suggest that the impact of an as of right deck for the neighbors. So I'm satisfied that the variance is minor and meets the other three tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval without conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor, for that motion. We have a seconder for Mr. Taylor's
I'll
motion.
second.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. All in, anything to add? All in favor? You have unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Caravaggio, and thank you, neighbors.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next item, item number 6, 58 Cronin Drive. Yes, okay, Mr., do you want to bring your microphone closer to you? Because I don't know if anyone can.
Sorry, there is an issue with notice on this application and an item later on, item 12, where the word height was not included in variances 3 and 4. The variance should read a minimum of 60% of the total width of the front exterior main wall shall be less than 7 meters in height. So that was omitted, and in height was also omitted in variance 4. So the committee can set its mind to whether or not there's a notice issue, and if they conclude that notice was properly made, can direct staff to include the words in height in the decision.
Okay, committee members, I guess we have a preliminary, before I even, introduce this application, we have an issue whether we should be proceeding or putting this back for further notice. It's an application for additions. There's 5 variances. We have a cover letter. There's a previous committee decision in February 2019 that I believe they didn't proceed, it wasn't built. And that's in the additional materials that we revised to this error in the notice. So would anyone like to weigh in or make a motion on whether you believe we should be proceeding today? Notice that there are no comments from neighbors or other city departments on this application. And the speaker.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that.
Yeah, first of all, we just bring the agent into it. Hannah Delarzak is the agent. So we might as well have that person on the phone while we are dealing with this. Was Hannah Delarzak?
Yes, speaking.
Okay, so I just wanted to have you on the line. We're discussing this preliminary issue about whether we have a notice issue in variance number 3. So I wanted to have you on the line. We're just about to hear from Mr. Taylor, one of the members, about variance number 3 and 4. Right.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest, Mr. Chair, in my view, the intent of variances 3 and 4 as written is clear. And I personally don't think we need to deal with recirculation to add the words in height.
Okay.
That would be my view.
Okay, and I think in terms of the fair, it's not like the last application we had 6 or 7 speakers registered. There's no one registered. There's no one who's written in with concern. So, you know, again, it could possibly be a subject of appeal, but it looks like this is pretty straightforward application, so that's unlikely. So I appreciate your so that the meaning is clear. So that's a motion to proceed. Do we have a seconder for that?
Danny Bellissimo agrees.
Okay, so does everyone agree we can proceed today? Show of hands.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, everyone agrees. Okay, so again, this is an application. We go back. There's 5 variances. And it's to construct a 2-story south side addition and a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling. We have the site-specific zoning bylaw, cover letter, previous decision that they didn't build, and no one else has weighed in. So, Hannah Delarzak, is there anything you'd like to add as agent before we take this into committee and see if anyone has any questions? We do have your
Hello.
We have your covering letter.
Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay. I was just called yesterday and told about this not quite clear variances. Okay, but these 2 variances, they in the bylaw, they apply to the height, so I don't think it's a problem because it was just copied from the zoning notice.
Yes, the committee is,
And-
ma'am, this committee has already decided that they're going to hear the application and that the notice is proper. So I'm just asking if you'd like to add anything else about your application before I just see if committee members have any questions for you. Because it's a very straightforward application. We've decided.
No, not really. Not really. I just wanted to say that, okay, the committee copied it from the zoning notice and, you know, I'm not a zoning expert. It was sent like that, so.
Yeah, I'm saying that. I understand. So other than that procedural issue regarding the merits of your actual application, is there anything else you'd like to tell the committee before I see if committee members just have any questions about you for the merits of your application?
No.
About your
no.
variances. Okay.
Just to ask to approve it. Okay.
Okay, let's see if anyone has any questions for you. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, sure.
So does anyone have any questions for the agent? And if not, does anyone have ready to weigh in with a motion? We do have 5 variances on this application. So any questions or a motion?
Danny Bellissimo has reviewed the application carefully, and I find that the variances are very minor in nature and move for approval. Thank you. I don't think there are any conditions as far as I can see.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconder for that motion. Ms. Alderson, I've seen your hand go up first. So all in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you, Ms. Larzak.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, the next application is item number 7, 13 Oakhampton Boulevard. And this is an application for 2-story south side, nope, that's the last one. Sorry. Yes, this is a 2-story rear addition and a rear yard deck, and there are 2 variances from the zoning bylaw. It appears to be rather minor. The distance from the west side lot line, and both variances for the platform being also the distance from the west side lot line. Those are the only variances. And we have registered to speak Brendan Charters, the agent, as well as the neighbor from 11 Hampton Boulevard. And we have, looks like 11 letters of support.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Brendan Charters from Eurodale Design Build, and I'm the agent for the owner.
Okay, welcome. We have a neighbor here with registered to speak. I don't know if you'd like to give us a brief description of what you're doing here in anticipation of any concerns, or wait to respond to what the neighbor has to say. So you have 5 minutes.
Well, sorry.
We're just saying.
As mentioned, we have a. Sorry, Mr. Chair. I can give a very brief description if it would please yourself and the committee.
Okay. Does the committee wish a presentation, or when we just hear from the neighbor with their concerns? We only have 2 issues with the side yard, and I believe it's it's a rear addition. I assume it follows the. Is it the same as the same side yard as the existing house?
It is insofar as it runs a straight line parallel with the existing house. The function of the variance is a result of the original house not being perfectly parallel with the side property line. So as we go back, it reduces from the existing 1.05 meters to 1.03 meters at the addition and 1.02 meters at the deck. We are running straight line back in parallel with the existing house, but as you go further to the rear yard, it tightens that side yard ever so slightly.
Okay, and I'm looking at your site plan, and you can see very clearly what the situation is. So why don't we hear from the neighbor, the affected neighbor on that side, the neighbor at number 11, and you'll have certainly a chance to respond to whatever concerns they have. And perhaps if we can get that up on the screen. The existing, the site plan. Okay, so let's hear from the neighbors, either, I don't know if it's going to be Mr. or Mrs. Giordano.
It's Charles Giordano.
Okay, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. You know what, I've considered I have no questions.
Okay, you're good. You know, I guess, it's
yes. Thank you.
You're drawing the extension along where the existing house is. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Charters, nothing to respond to. So let's see if we have any questions from committee members, and if not, if someone's ready to weigh in with a motion.
Danny Bellissimo has looked at the drawings carefully. I don't have any questions. I'm ready to make a motion if the other members do not have any questions as well.
Looks like you're okay.
I find that the variances are minor in nature and move for approval.
Okay, and I see we have urban forestry condition number 2 on this application. Is that a friendly amendment?
Sure, I'm sorry, I missed that. I didn't hear that from the beginning. Yes.
And I see Ms.
Forestry condition.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Alderson, you had your hand up. Prepared to second the motion. Thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Charters.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, have a nice day.
Okay, the next application is item number 8, 2740 Jane Street. It's an application to convert the existing storage space into 3 one-bedroom units, and there are 3 variances. We have a cover letter. Transportation has, planning has conditions of approval. And transportation, again, Mr. Carbolino, transportation had some conditions of approval just before we deal with this. And we do have, like, just when we get the parties present on this, we have the agent is Robin Stebner. As well, we have, it looks like the other two people are all agents maybe on the same, they're both, they all look like they all represent the applicant. Am I correct on that? So we don't have anyone here opposed, but I'll just raise this question when I was reviewing. Transportation talks about due to discrepancies in variance 3 to get an updated zoning review that reflects the most recent plans submitted. So my question is, based on that condition, staff and members, do we need to defer this or can we proceed? Just an interpretation on what transportation.
Transportation's recommend, through you, Mr. Chair, Transportation is recommending that an up-to-date zoning review be obtained by the applicant that confirms the application as submitted. It's not typical, but it's not unheard of to just double back to ensure that additional variances aren't required or a modification is required.
Okay, so
if they're wrong, they'll have to come back with a new application.
Okay, but assuming they're right, we are at liberty to proceed then and not add that as a condition post-approval as opposed to deferring it to get that prior to voting on it, considering that.
Transportation staff have not asked for a deferral, they just asked for that condition.
Okay, so, okay, thank you. I don't know if anyone else had that same thought. So, okay, so we can proceed. Let's see, I guess, Rob, I don't know who the lead agent is because it looks like we have 3 people on behalf of the applicant on this one. It's Robin.
Hi, yes, good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Yeah, my name is Robin Stebner and I'll take the lead on presenting. Yeah, so we would just like to note with regards to the transportation condition that as per email correspondence with transportation dated May 13th, they have stated that they no longer require the condition. This correspondence was forwarded to the committee, so I just want to confirm if this has been received or not. Yeah.
Okay, so again, if we don't have anything on file on that, you wouldn't have any difficulty in the event of an approval if we do add that as a condition. If it's no longer required, it's no longer required because staff does not have a copy of what you're advising. I certainly take you at your word, but so there's no one here in opposition. I don't know if you'd like to make a small presentation. You're basically converting storage area to 3 assumed badly needed affordable housing in the city. So I assume transportation, other than their conditions, I assume you're okay with their 2 conditions?
Yeah, that's correct. And then I guess just to clarify the transportation condition, there was just an error on the site statistics. We had just mislabeled one of the spots skip number, so there was just one more parking space provided in the stats. So we're actually providing 59 spaces where we're required to have 56.
So you're providing 59 spaces. So it talks about variance number 3, 56, which 39 shall be underground, and you have 56 of which 37. So you're saying you actually have 57 spots?
So the site total is 59.
59. Well, the notice went out to the
so
public.
37 are underground.
But the question is, the variance appears to be not the number, but the number that's underground. So are you still deficient 2 underground compared to or is the 2 extra spots give you the 39, in which case you don't need variance number 3?
No, so we would still require number 3 because 37 are provided underground.
So you still have, you still are deficient, whatever the bylaw requires, 39 underground, you don't have that, right? So you still need that variance.
Yes, yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Committee members, any questions for the applicant based on the 3 variances here due to this conversion? If not, is there any?
Neil Palmer. Just regarding the transportation,
condition. We don't have the email that you've referenced. So I'm just wondering if we deem this minor and give it approval, can we add the transportation condition? Would that be acceptable, seeing as how you've said you've already satisfied it?
Yeah, we would be acceptable of the condition since we've had that conversation with transportation.
Okay, thank you.
And I have a quick question as well regarding community planning's condition, two conditions regarding the landscape plan. You're okay with that?
Yes, yes, we are. We've already begun our conversations with planning staff on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is anyone ready to make a motion? Or is
Danny Bellissimo has reviewed the drawings, and the proposal basically is interior within the existing framework of the existing building, so I don't see any impact to surrounding area. And move approval on the conditions of planning and transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconded for Mr. Bellissimo's motion. Ms.
I'll
Alderson,
second.
thank you.
Oh,
Ms. Alderson had her
beat me
hand
to
up
it.
first, so all in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Ms. Stebner.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, our next item is item number 943, Westley Crescent. It's an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage, covered front porch, rear basement walkout, rear covered deck, and rear shed. The whole collection's a mouthful. We do have, we had 7 variances. We now have 6. We have a revised sheet showing the deletion of variance number 4, the and reduction in variances 1 and 2 being the coverage and the floor space index. We have on this application as well planning requesting a condition of approval to the architectural plans to be built substantially or construct as illustrated on to deal with the length on all 3 levels. And we have Councillor Grimes in support. We have 2 letters of opposition from 39 and 41. And I believe we have in the supplemental materials, we now have photos, an arborist report, and 18 letters of support. And that's what we have. So registered to speak, we do not have, I see we only have Graham Barrett, the agent, registered. So the 2 neighbors of 39 and 41 who've written in with concerns are not here to reiterate, but they do have written in. So Mr. Barrett?
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Well, we also have urban forestry conditions 1 and 2. So given that introduction, I see that you've done some revisions here, I assume to appease community planning. And
that's correct.
We don't have, I guess you can give us a short presentation dealing with the concerns and perhaps responding to the concerns raised by the 2 adjacent neighbors on one side, 39 and 41. And my question,
sure, gladly.
And my other question when you do that, my question when I was reviewing this was whether these letters came in before or after these revisions that you attended to. Whether you know that.
That's a good question. I think they came in kind of at the 11th hour before material submission, but I have read through them and I did make some points, so I'm happy to make some rebuttals even in the absence of speakers. But okay. I'll try to be brief here. But as you mentioned, the proposal represents a compromise between the owners and planning staff. They did have some concerns, and the owners were happy to make adjustments to bring these plans more in line with what staff wanted to see for the site and the neighborhood. So significant reductions in floor area and coverage were made, and variance for setback to a platform was eliminated. I have read the staff report and concur with their opinion that this revised proposal passes the 4 tests. I think the big one really is, or rather are the variances for building length and depth, and those are the result of the excavated portion under the rear deck. They do not apply to the ground and 2nd floor, which comply with the zoning bylaw maximum of 17 meters. It's actually 16.78. So those are the ones that look bad on paper, but it's only for the excavated portion underground. Another important factor is this lot configuration. It's somewhat pie-shaped, resulting in the variances for side yard setbacks. The designer did his best to fit this dwelling on the lot with minimal jogs in the sidewalls, but a few points are slightly closer than the required 1.2 meters. But the majority of the home is set back at least 1.2 meters. As you mentioned, we have 18 letters of support and one from Councillor Mark Grimes, which we appreciate. That was conditional on planning staff concerns being addressed, and they were, so we appreciated that. We are aware of the forestry conditions. The city trees at the front can and will be protected. One private tree at the side will have to be removed to facilitate construction, and the private trees at the rear can and will be protected as well. I have done some research into past approvals in the area. There's a spreadsheet included in my presentation materials, but we fall squarely in the middle in terms of floor space index approvals within 500 meters of the subject property. And we also see quite a few greater variances for coverage, up to and including almost 43%, and many side yard setback variances that are more significant than what are being proposed at 43 Westley. As for some of the neighbors' points, their main concerns seem to center around flooding and drainage issues, which, as we all know, is not really an issue for today, but will be addressed through a grading plan. The owners have spoken with a couple of their neighbors about mitigating runoff in whatever way possible they can, and they're more than happy to do so. They don't want to create water problems for their neighbors, just as they don't want to create water problems for themselves. They have been in touch with these neighbors and had some discussions about it, but apparently we're in an agree to disagree situation at the moment. As for concerns about projecting to the rear yard, as I mentioned, the ground and second floors will comply with building length and depth, and the coverage has been reduced. We also have no variances required for soft landscaping, so that is helpful. There were some concerns about sunlight, but again, we have no variances for overall height, rear or front setbacks, and the side yards are quite minor. The owners also opted for a sloped roof design rather than going for something more contemporary and flat roof to allow as much sunlight to penetrate as possible. The other letter of opposition that was sent in mentioned concerns about parking, where a lot of the homes in the area have driveways that go along the side of the house. And the owner feels, and I tend to agree, that having a driveway at the side of the house is a bit of a waste of space. There's no real need for a long driveway when parking can be accommodated with an integral garage, allowing more living space for the family. Impact on drainage is essentially the same if there's a house there or a hard paved surface. At least for the house, there'll be more control of where to direct the water.
Okay, Mr. Barrett, so would you like to wrap up? I think we're...
Sorry, I think I've covered all my points. I agree with planning staff that this passes the 4 tests. We have ample support. This will be a tasteful addition to the neighborhood, and it will meet the owner's needs. And I thank you for your time this morning.
Okay, and lastly, you're fine with the recommended condition from community planning, construct as illustrated, for the length of the 3 levels, and also the for urban forestry, correct? You're okay with those?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so let's see if anyone has any questions for you. Thank you for that presentation, even in the absence of neighbors, and to address the 2 letters. I know one of them was dated May the 13th, and the one next door is actually undated, if that helps. So committee members, any questions for Mr. Barrett, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, if there are no more questions from anyone.
Yes. Go ahead.
I find the variances meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move for approval subject to urban forestry conditions 1 and 2 and the condition requested by the Community Planning Department.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for that.
Danny Bellissimo seconds the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Barrett.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
You too. Okay, the next application is item number 1054 Aldgate Avenue. And it's an application to construct a new detached ancillary structure garage in the rear yard. There are 3 variances. We have a petition and support with 8 signatures and nothing else. No communication from any city departments. And the speaker is Frank Paul, the agent. And no other speakers registered. Mr. Paul?
Yep. Good morning, committee members.
Good morning, sir. So it looks like, you know, we don't have any opposition to this, either from city departments or any conditions being requested. So I don't believe we need a presentation unless the committee would like one. And was there anything you'd like to add before I see if committee members have any questions?
No, I just go ahead and proceed with questions if there are any. Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. And we do have all your petition and support here. Committee members, any questions for Mr. Paul, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Danny Bellissimo, move approval of the variances and find that they're minor in nature.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconder? Mr. Taylor?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Paul. You have your variances. Your application's been approved.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Okay, the next application is item number 11, 52 Strath Avenue. It's an application to construct an east side second-story addition, a new third-story addition. And there's two variances: the flat roof height under two different bylaws. We have a cover letter, very good cover letter, I noted, and 12 letters of support. Right, this is about the pitch of the flat roof component of the roof. So the agent is Chris Marchese. Mr. Marchese?
Yes, I'm here, Sir Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, all good. So yeah, we have a lot of support. As I just went through, we had, I counted up 12. We have a cover letter, previous decision before the committee. And it looks like the main issue here is the pitched roof with a flat roof portion component. So when we have the color-coded plan, perhaps we can get that up on the screen. So Mr. Marchese, if you'd like to just perhaps walk us through your the variances here and the issue about the flat roof height.
Sure, and I just want to be clear before we get into it. It's my interpretation that it's flat under the old bylaw, but sloped under the new bylaw. It's a 30% requirement as seen within the cover letter submitted by the architect, and we're at about 37% sloped. I believe that if it was a flat roof under the new bylaw, the requirement would be 7.2. So we are considered a sloped roof under bylaw 569/2013 and a flat roof under the old bylaw. Can I please have staff pull up the color-coded roof plan, please?
Yep, that's the one.
It would be part of the cover letter package that was submitted prior to the deadline.
Keeps going, yeah. Yeah, it's at the end of the letter. There we go. No, not that one. Keep going.
Yeah, so that's the roof plan right there. And as you can see, the purple line is proposed. The yellow area is what the area of the difference is. And if we were sloped up to the green portion, then we would be considered a sloped roof under both bylaws. This is a common condition in the neighborhood where they're sloped from all exterior main walls. And when you're looking from the streetscape, it'll look like it's sloped. But it's considered a flat roof under the former bylaw. When we're looking at the FSI, I know that the number from a quantitative perspective looks large, but it is crucial to relate the proposed variance to the intent of this performance standard within the bylaw. The performance standard for FSI is in large part to control the massing of a dwelling, as well as providing consistent and compatible built form throughout the neighborhood. If I can now have staff pull up the front elevation with the markup drawings, please.
Just the next page. Yeah, that one there. That's the one I was talking about, Mr. Marchese.
Yeah, so this one will really depict from the street that the yellow portion is all that's being included. We're at 0.73 meters of inclusion, and that's to the high point of the roof of the architectural feature on the right side of that plan. but majority of the roof is being extended only 0.429 or 0.43 of a meter over what's existing. The streetscape will not be affected through this proposal. The FSI is being included within the existing attic space. Yes, a new roof portion is being constructed, but is only being greater than 0.73 meters over what is existing. I am of the opinion that because of the increased FSI being located within the existing massing of the existing dwelling, and the height being minor in nature as only a minor 0.74 meter increase, that both the variances meet the test individually and accumulatively under the Planning Act, and therefore I believe that it should be approved. One note I would like to make is that 2- and 3-story traditional and classical style homes exist in this neighborhood. It is a very, very unique neighborhood in terms of character, and this dwelling is proposed to respect and reinforce that existing character by putting the 3rd-story living space within the roof area of the dwelling, which exists on many other dwellings in this neighborhood. I am now happy to answer any questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marchese. So does anyone have any questions? Thank you, Mr. Marchese, for clarifying that flat roof issue. And we have the revision shown. No, that was the next application. So yes, we have support. We have no concerns. We have no conditions. Members, any questions or a motion?
Benny Bellissimo, we're ready to make a motion if there's no questions from other members.
Yes.
Carefully reviewing the drawings and the fact that the 3rd-story addition has been designed in a very sensitive manner, including the mansard style roof. Find the variances are minor in nature. Support the variances.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. The second.
I'm happy to second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? Unanimous support. Thank you, Mr. Marchese.
Thank you, Sir Chair and fellow committee members. Have a great day.
Thank you. Mr. Carvalino, members, how about we take a 5-minute break? I think we're running on time. We only have left on the morning session 1, 2, 3, 4 more items. And they don't look like there's any opposition. So I think we can take a 5-10 minute break. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll be back at 11:20 to continue. Okay, welcome back, everyone, and thank you to those waiting on the phone for that indulgence while we took a short break. Item number 12 is 34 Billingham Road. It's an application to construct a two-story west side addition that will include an attached blank, a second-story addition above the existing dwelling and a new front porch. The existing detached garage will be demolished. First off, Mr. Kirby, is there a wording issue there? To construct a
Yes,
two-story
Mr.
west
Chair,
side addition that will include an attached. You missing the word garage there?
Yes, garage. It won't create. Well, it's up to the committee, but we can take direction to include that.
Okay,
in the
so that's
decision.
one issue, and then we also have the issue on this one, as identified in the additional materials, that the word height was missing, but implied in variances 4 and 5. So that's just like we had to on item number 6. We now have to consider whether we can proceed, both due to that missing word height in 4 and 5, and also the missing word garage in the preamble for the purpose of the application. Let's get the, might as well get the agent on the line while we do that. Amir Nayebi is the agent. Mr. Nayebi? Okay. Okay. Mr. Nayebi?
Yes.
Good morning. I was just introducing the application, and I just started off by raising two preliminary little issues regarding the actual notice, that the word height is missing in variances 4 and 5, and in the purpose of the application, the word garage is missing. So we're just dealing with those preliminary matters in committee to see whether committee members feel we can proceed given that. Committee members, anyone have any opinion on whether we can proceed on that basis? Well, you consider, Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would support moving forward with this application on the same basis as we discussed previously, that the intent of variances, in this case 4 and 5, the intent is clear that it pertains to height, and I would recommend that we proceed.
Okay, and also with respect to the issue of the missing word garage, I think if you would agree with that as well, I notice in variance 1 it does refer to the altered dwelling including the attached garage, so I think it's the fact that the word garage is missing in the purpose. You believe we can proceed on that basis? Well, you might as well deal with both issues.
Yes, I would say that's not significant either.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Do I have a seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion that we can proceed? Mr. Bellissimo?
Danny Bellissimo seconds the motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, so we can proceed. Okay, so having said that, this is an application, I said, for those various additions. We have 9 variances. We have some revisions to some of them shown in the, as highlighted in yellow on the revised sheet. Transportation has no objection. We have an arborist report, petition in support with 14 signatures, and the site-specific zoning bylaw. Okay, Mr. Nayebi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, is there anything you'd like to add about now that we've dealt with those preliminary issues on the merits of the application? Is there anything you'd like to add, or can I just see if committee members have any questions?
Yeah, so I would like to just add a little introduction to just help process the decision. Again, hello, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you again for the detailed introduction. My name is Amir, and I'm an agent representing the owner for 34 Billingham. The proposal is for second floor addition over the existing 1-story bungalow and the garage. I would like to point out the majority of the variances are driven by the height, which is mainly due to the existing elevated ground floor. Majority of the houses in the neighborhood, or just to give you a context, were built in late 50s to 60s with a raised ground floor of 4 feet and over. I happen to live within the same neighborhood as well, and I adhere to that. In coordination with the city planning team, we have revised the plans and driven the roof down, which helped in reducing the variances that impacted the variance impact. The items affected are, as you noted, we have reduced the height, item number 3, from 10 meters to 9.8 meters. Item number 4 and 5 have been impacted as well, which was reduced from like 100% to 44.29%, and respectively 100% to 63.39%. Also, item number 6 have been reduced from 7.33 meters to 6.9 meters. And would also like to note that item number 8 and 9 are existing condition, and transportation. There's a support letter from transportation on this matter.
Okay.
I would like to correct. There is a 16 homeowners that have signed for the support, which kind of like adheres to 75% of the like immediate neighborhood. The property is backing into a public park and school. So there is no immediate neighbor to the rear yard, and so the main impacted neighbors are within within the Billingham Street. The other 25%, I guess, it was COVID related. We weren't able to kind of like reach out, but it should have been like also in the same support category. There is one last item that I would like to also add. The proposal. The proposal respects the neighborhood streetscape, and I would like to note that there are over 50 approved committee hearings within the identical or worse in the past 10 years within the 500-meter range, and over 70 approved hearing within 1 kilometer range within the same zoning bylaw designation. I would like to at this point, if there's any questions, I would like to address any of the questions the committee might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nayebi, for that presentation. Committee members, any questions for the agent, or is someone ready to make a motion?
I'm ready to make a motion if no one has any questions. I believe the variances are minor in nature based on the revision page that was submitted by the applicant, and I would move to approve with no conditions.
Thank you. Seconder for that motion. Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Nayebi.
Thank you.
Okay, the next application is item number 13, 8 ELFORD Boulevard. And we have one speaker, Curtis Van Koolen, the agent for the property. This is an application to legalize and maintain the as-built detached dwelling and attached garage. There is one variance, being the floor space index. It's 1%, 0.1 over, 0.45 to 0.46, which is about 5.23 square meters over. Otherwise, that's the only variance. We have 11 letters of support. We have Councillor Grimes in support, and we have the order to comply. Okay, Mr. Van Koolen.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning. So I just did that introduction. So basically there's an order to comply, and you're basically a whopping 5.23 of a meter over. That's the only variance here. So what happens?
Correct. If it pleases, correct. If it pleases the committee, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to quickly explain a couple of items really quickly, and then I'll pass it back to you.
Of course, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Curtis Van Koolen, representing this application. We are over by about 5 square meters, as mentioned, and I just quickly wanted to address the fact that there is the order to comply, which basically during the construction of the home, the inspector doing their job, rightly so, caught an area that was built over before we could actually file for all the applications necessary. We had every intent to do so, so I just did not want any notions of anything nefarious to come through on that regard. So it was just something ahead of time that just kind of popped up. So we do note that the Obviously, the variance is extremely minor in nature and definitely meets the four tests of the planning law. And there's no effect on the rear or front elevations and very little effect on the side elevation of the home. So I defer back to you for your follow-up questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Van Keulen? Or is someone ready to make a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to ask, what if anything is being done about the order to comply? It doesn't seem to have any relationship to the matter at hand today. Am I right?
Through you, Mr. Chair, as you get your water, I'll just answer that really quickly. So because of the framing of the roof, the framers built over a small area on the side of the house. They felt it was necessary at that time. They informed me, and then we started to do the application process. We just did not get it in time before the inspector caught it and flagged it and said, you know what, comply to this and make sure that you get your paperwork in order. So we did so, and we're here before you today.
Okay. Any follow-up questions, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion? Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I find the requested variance to be very minor in nature and satisfying all the tests under the Planning Act. So I move for approval without conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for that motion.
Danny Bellissimo seconds the motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, you have unanimous approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Take care.
Okay, item 14 has been deferred, so item number 15 is 11 Caesar Avenue. And it's an application for to convert a portion of the basement into an additional dwelling unit, construct a 2-story rear addition, a covered front porch, a covered rear yard, covered deck, and a rear yard detached garage. There are 4 variances. Hold on. I thought I had a revision page. Yeah, the revision page shows that there were 4 variances. There are now 3 variances. The variance number 1 has been eliminated, as shown. So it's no longer considered a duplex. Transportation has 4 conditions of approval. We have a cover letter, and that's all we have. So, Mr. Eddie Perez is the agent. Mr. Perez, welcome.
Hello. Hello. Good morning, Chairman and committee members. I'm Eddie Perez. I'm here on behalf of the owners.
Okay, there's no one else here with concerns. No one's written in with concerns. Would you like to give us a brief introduction, or just see if the committee members have any questions for you?
Yeah, that'll be fine. It's pretty straightforward, this project.
Right, and you're aware and are content with the transportation condition and the urban forestry condition?
Yes, I had a look at that this morning. Yes, I did.
Okay, so we have urban forestry and we have transportation. Committee members, any questions for Mr. Perez? Or is someone ready to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, Don Taylor, I have a question.
Yes.
Sir, could you please explain the purpose of this application as stated in the notice relative to the deletion of variance 1? It seems to me that by deleting variance 1, there seems to be a need to change the purpose. It's just not clear to me what you're trying to do here now that variance 1 has been removed.
Well, we are allowed a 2-unit dwelling on this property. And the way we had drawn the previous floor plan for the basement, they consider that being a duplex because you couldn't access the side entrance and such. So we reconstructed the layout on the basement. So it now reads as a 2 units and not as a duplex, because we have access to both from the side door, and access is accessible from both units. So it's no longer separate. Before it had a wall where you couldn't go into the other unit, and that's why it was considered a duplex. It's just the way they word it. But now the way we put it, it's no longer considered a duplex. It's considered a 2 units, which 2 units are allowed.
Meaning a primary and a secondary suite, right? You mean like a secondary
Correct.
suite?
Correct. The previous layout was different. There was a wall down the middle, and you couldn't access the side stairs and such. And it was totally different before. And that's why they considered it as being a duplex.
Yeah, so it's your cover letter dated April 30th says, as per Leila Farhani and from planning, request to be changed from proposed duplex to a proposed secondary suite. The basement floor plan and first floor plan we revised, so now it is considered a secondary suite instead of a duplex.
That's correct.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Taylor, I interrupted you. You were going to say something?
Yeah, no, that's fine. And I'm sorry, I do recall reading that explanation, and I'm sorry to take everyone's time up on it. If there's no other questions, I'm satisfied that the variances meet the 4 tests, and I move for approval. Oh, sir, just stepping away for a second. Are you aware of and okay with the Transportation Department conditions?
Yeah, we're okay with that.
Okay, and as well, there's urban forestry condition 2.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I would move approval, Mr. Chair, subject to urban forestry condition 2 and the conditions requested by the Transportation Department.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Taylor. A seconder for that?
Seconder. Andy Benissimo seconds the motion.
Thank you, sir. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Perez.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Okay, we'll try. Okay, item 16 has been deferred, so our last item on the morning agenda is item number 17, 110 George Street. Rick Bongers is the agent, and this is an application for a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, so a pure top-up. We have 4 variances. Transportation has no objection. We have support from the next-door neighbor at 108. And that's a bit all we have. Mr. Bongers.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Okay, so we have 4 variances here for this, it's just straight top-up, correct?
Yes.
So the setbacks, the front, it's sort of almost all existing, the terms of the, well, actually not, just the front, I guess the front lot line variance is existing, or is that something that the new covered porch is getting? No, it's not, no.
It's we're proposing a cantilevered box window on the front. It's an architectural element just to break up the massing.
Okay.
That's the front yard variance.
Okay, transportation's okay. Let's just see, committee members, any questions for Mr. Bongers? And there doesn't appear to be any conditions.
I just have one quick question. The letter of support that came from 108, that is the neighbor who shares your driveway. Is that correct? It looks like correct. It looks like a 3-story home. It looks like an overbuild on that lot, but we didn't approve it. But okay. They're asking, they're showing their support. So that's, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, they actually say in their letter, it says here that I reside at 108 and I have a shared driveway. I fully support the proposed variance. So
shared driveway. Okay. Yep. I'm happy to put forward a motion if there are no other questions.
Go ahead.
So I believe the variances asked for meet the 4 tests, and I'm happy to approve. I don't think there are any conditions. Is that correct? Just have to refer to my notes here.
That's correct.
Yeah, transportation is now okay, so no conditions, with no conditions.
Thank you. Seconder for Ms. Alderson's motion.
Danny Bellissimo seconds the motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Bongers.
All right, thanks. Have a great day, everyone.
Okay, and we now stand adjourned till 1 p.m. to do the 1 o'clock agenda items. Have a great lunch, everyone.
You too.
Thanks.